Hello YouTube, I'm Hellhound, and I finally found time to make a video. Barely had time to make any videos lately, not for a while. I'm so busy all the time, I barely even had time to play World of Warcraft, or even get together with my Dungeons & Dragons group, so friggin' sucks being busy all the time, but it is worth it. Working hard, you know. But a while ago I made a couple videos. The first one, I counted down my top 10 Super NES games. I talked about my favorite console, which is the Super Nintendo, and I talked about my top 10 favorite games for that system, as well as a lot of honorable mentions. And then immediately after that, I made another video counting down my top 10 Sega Genesis games. Sega Genesis probably being my second favorite console. And I mentioned that eventually I would do an N64 video. You know, I know there's a lot of N64 fans out there, me included. It's probably my third favorite console overall. I don't know, sometimes it's my favorite, though. Sometimes I'm, like, really into N64. I'm like, this is the best thing ever, you know, even better than Super Nintendo every once in a while. But I think, you know, Super Nintendo probably still will always be my favorite of all time, no matter what. But, like, you know, every once in a while, N64 would be my current favorite console. There's definitely those three. Those three are like the holy trinity, in my opinion. As you know, I am a hardcore gamer, retro gamer anyway. You know, the only games I play that aren't old school is like whatever the newest Mortal Kombat is, Grand Theft Auto, Twisted Metal, and yeah, the Batman Arkham series, and a few others, but that's about it. I don't really play very many newer games. It's like some online RPG or you know something like that. But anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about the N64 today. Here's my Nintendo 64. I bought this when it first came out, when it was brand new, and it's still going strong, just like my Super Nintendo and my 5 different Sega Genesis consoles. Yeah, I have 5 of them, but yeah, I only have one Super Nintendo and one N64, because that's all I need. I need to clean this off a little bit. It's a little dusty. It's really dusty in my room anyway. Yeah, we're going to talk about my top 10 favorite N64 games, as well as several honorable mentions. I've got like over 20 honorable mentions, so yeah, I'm going to try to make it brief, though. I'll have like a brief summary of each game, but I'll try not to make it too long. So I guess this will be like my third video game video, unless you count that Dead Level Discussions episode where me and Spellbinder talked about Mortal Kombat. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, number 10. My number 10 favorite N64 game. 007, The World Is Not Enough. Now, you probably already know I'm a huge James Bond fan. I have every single one of the movies all the ones that were released on VHS. I have them all up to Die Another Day, and I also have them all on DVD, obviously, along with the 4 Daniel Craig ones. You know, so I have all the movies of both formats, essentially, and I watch them constantly. I have a few on Blu-ray, too. Love James Bond. My favorite was the Connery era. Second favorite being Roger Moore. My third favorite Bond is Pierce Brosnan. Now, I realize his movies were kind of more, you know, basic summer blockbuster, popcorn fluff, just kind of mindless entertainment. You know, I realize Daniel Craig's movies are probably technically better than Pierce Brosnan's movies, but I still think Brosnan's a way better Bond than Craig. Craig plays him more like Jason Bourne. He's good too. He's my fourth favorite, but I like Brosnan. He's way more suave and charismatic, and I think he's, you know, definitely almost on par with Connery and Moore. But anyway, that's the movies. But the games are great as well. The N64 games, anyway. And I think this one improves on GoldenEye a little bit. There's a few things I like better about this one. Mainly the multiplayer. You get to play against the AI. So usually, if I just have one other friend over, that's what I play mostly is a multiplayer. The single player is pretty fun too, especially the hardest setting, which is agent, secret agent, then 00 agent, which I often do because I'm kind of an expert in this game by now. I've been playing it for years, so I always play the hardest setting. But anyway, the multiplayer is a little slightly improved upon GoldenEye, in that you can play against the AI, as I said. And yeah, when I have a friend over, it's usually me and him on a team against the 2 AI bots, as they're called, on a team. We always give them stupid names like an ass, so it's like player 1 was killed by an ass, you know, or something stupid like that. or a douchebag or something. But yeah, and sometimes I have I have 3 other people come over. 4 of us play. 4 of us play this game, which is really fun. Yeah, I love doing that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure in GoldenEye you couldn't play against the AI. And I think it was only 2 players. I might have that wrong. You know what? You know what? Scratch that. I think I have that wrong. But I think this one does improve in a lot of areas, especially where the multiplayer is concerned, which is definitely the best part of the game. That definitely I feel like it's just endless fun when it comes to the multiplayer. It just never gets old. Yeah, love James Bond. Love World's Not Enough. It's a pretty good movie too, but the game is even better actually. Okay, let's move on. Let's not spend too much time on one game. It's already 5 minutes in, and I already talked about that too much. Donkey Kong 64. I wasn't able to play this for a long time because I didn't have an expansion pack. Finally, I got one. You dust these. I love the Donkey Kong Country series on the SNES. They're some of my favorite games for that console. And this one's basically like a part 4, Donkey Kong Country 4, obviously with updated graphics and stuff. Pretty much just as groundbreaking as Donkey Kong Country was. It's not one of my favorite games for N64 like Donkey Kong Country is for the SNES, but it's definitely up there. It's it's my number 9. So great game. It's cool that you can play as Donkey or Diddy or some new characters. I think what was her name, Tiny Kong, and then a couple others. I kind of wish that they had Dixie Kong and Kitty Kong from Donkey Kong Country 3 return, but oh well, this is nitpicking. Still pretty cool to see King K. Rool like in the the boxing ring. He's the final boss of all the games, and he's like really huge this time. He's like enormous. He towers over the other characters. But anyway, in my Super Nintendo video, I included Super Mario Kart in the honorable mentions. It almost made the list. Mario Kart 64 definitely makes the list for the N64 games, and you knew this was coming. You knew this would be on here. This game is so friggin' fun, and I think it still holds up today as like the best Mario Kart game. I mean, I think Double Dash for GameCube is really good too, but I think this will always be like the best Mario Kart game. It's the one people remember the most. It's the one that people have the fondest memories of. It's just great. It's just friggin' awesome, and they can make as many more Mario Kart games and expand on the formula, improve on the graphics and the moves and the items and the levels and the characters and the tracks. All these things you can do, all these awesome things. But I think this will always be the best. Like this will just always be the most memorable, and it's a great game. It's one of the first games I had for the N64. It's just great. It's just wonderful. I could play for hours. Me and my friends are constantly racing in this game. It's just so much fun, especially when you have other people to play with you. Now here's a game that probably won't be on many people's lists, and I think it's very overlooked and very underrated. It might have came out kind of late, and it says N64's career might when it was like on the outs. It's Bomberman Hero, and now I always liked all the Bomberman games, even the original game, which I had on NES, just called Bomberman. I was actually playing that the other day, and it says I actually beat it for the first time the other day because I realized it had 50 levels. I thought it just never ended, so that's why I just never really continued playing it. But I found it had 50 levels, so I played through the whole game. And I beat it, and so it becomes human at the end. It's pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, tangent again. Sorry. This is easily the best Bomberman game by far. I don't think there ever has been or ever will be a better game than this. It's just an awesome platformer. There's so much you can do. There's so many worlds you can explore. The cutscenes are great. It's an awesome story. This is like one of the first games I played, or one of the first ones I remember that has like really cool cutscenes, like cinematics in between the levels, and it just tells a story. It's almost like watching a movie, kind of. And I didn't really know much about Bomberman or the characters of the universe. No, I think a lot of this was like new. A lot of these characters like had never been in a game before. This is great. I also love the Super Bomberman series for the Super Nintendo. Those are great. I used to have all 5 of them at one time, and now I think I only have 2 and 3. They're great. This actually doesn't have the multiplayer mode, unfortunately. But there's a lot you can do. There's a lot of unlockables. There's a lot of bonus content. There's a lot of secrets. Very fun game. One of the best platformers. Very underrated. So definitely check out Bomberman Hero if you haven't already, because I definitely think it needs get the credit that it deserves. Okay, moving on. I could talk about that game for a while, but here's another game you knew would be on the list. Super Smash Brothers. Now, this was just groundbreaking. This is revolutionary. For the first time ever, all these different Nintendo characters are in one game. They should have Bomberman, by the way. Speaking of Bomberman, he should have been in here, But I guess that was probably a different company or something. I don't know. But yeah, we have Mario, Luigi, Link from Zelda, Samus from Metroid, Donkey Kong, even Pikachu and Jigglypuff, the Pokemon, Captain Falcon, Ness, Kirby, of course, Yoshi. Great game, great fighting game. It really differs from other fighting games that has different mechanics. In this one, it's not really two fighters with a health bar. You can choose up to 4 players, and like you want to hit them enough to where their percentage, like just hit points, you can call it, goes up, and then knock them off. Every stage is like a platform that you can be knocked off, and like that's how you lose a life. So it's definitely different from other fighting games. I kind of would like to see a fighting game with all the Nintendo characters have like a health bar. I think that'd be kind of cool. But I appreciate that they did something different. And yeah, Super Smash Brothers is definitely great. It's definitely going to be on most people's lists for best N64 games. There's also Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. And I think that one improves on this one a lot. It's a lot, it's a lot more characters, better graphics, yada yada. There's also Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which is really good. But this is the first one. This is the one that started it all. And they got really creative with the one-player mode as well. But I think this is another game where it really shines the multiplayer for sure. The weird thing is, once N64 came out, there wasn't a lot of games where like 2 people could play. Like 2-player games, like the Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, and Contra and stuff like that, where 2 people can play like in like the adventure mode. But there's like there's usually a multiplayer option. It's just like it's kind of like the secondary part of the game, but sometimes that ended up being the best part, and this game is definitely definitely a testament to that. All right, moving on. I'm going to be talking too much on one game. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now you knew this is another one you knew was going to be on the list. This is a great game. I love the Zelda series. Legend of Zelda and Adventure Link. Zelda 2 for both for the NES, and then of course Link to the Past for Super Nintendo. It's one of my favorite games. And all the ones for Game Boy. All the Zelda games are great. If this one might actually be my favorite. This might be my favorite Zelda game that ever came out. Ocarina of Time is just, like, what can I say that hasn't been said before? This game just rules. In fact, I can't even do it justice. Like, I'm not even going to be able to review it. You're just going to have to play it. If you haven't played it yet, play this friggin' game and see what I mean. Go buy an N64, play this game. Stop this video, just go play this game, because I can't praise it enough. Link is one of my favorite video game characters of all time. They really need to make a Zelda movie, because that would be great. Like make it kind of similar to Lord of the Rings, maybe. Have to build a universe. It already has a pretty extensive mythology as it is with the games. But I'd love to see those characters adapted for a live action movie. And this is the best Zelda game. I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's a bold statement. I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably the best one. Legend of Zelda, it just rules. I mean, come on. I've always been mostly a Mario fan when it came to these type of games, Nintendo. But Zelda probably a close second, probably my second favorite series, and Link probably my second favorite video game character, Nintendo anyway, next to Mario. Speaking of Mario, Super Mario 64. It's another game that you knew was going to be in this list. I had to put it on here. Another great platformer. This was like the first of its kind. It was one of the first games that came out on the N64. Pretty sure it's the first game I ever played for the system. It's funny because I think with every Nintendo system, the first game I played was a Mario game. Super Mario Brothers for the NES, then Super Mario World for the SNES, and Super Mario 64 for N64, obviously. It was actually Luigi's Mansion on GameCube. Close enough. It was before Super Mario Sunshine came out. It is a great game. I'm going to be honest, this might be controversial a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and make this another bold statement that I don't think this is aged all that well. If you play it now, it's a little dated. I guarantee if you play it now, it's not going to be quite as good as you remember, and I kind of wish it followed more of a standard Mario formula. Like, I would have loved to have seen, like, he should have had firepower, and to get a star and become invincible, maybe get a cape and fly, or a raccoon tail or something. I appreciate they tried something different. It's cool to see all these characters and enemies in a 3D world, but I think they lost some ideas in some of the later levels. Like, what was there? Like, big, small world, wet, dry world, gay, straight world. And, like, there's a lot of levels where, I don't know, like, the layout, the design isn't all that creative. and isn't that great? And for that reason, this isn't my favorite N64. Excuse me, this isn't my favorite N64 game. And probably a lot of people would say this is their number one, and they're going to disagree with what I'm saying right now. But I just think that I mean, it was one of the first of its kind. I'm going to give it credit. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. It was one of the first games that came out on N64. I'm just saying it could have been a little better. I mean, it was still groundbreaking. It was still revolutionary. I still play this game constantly. I've mastered it. I've got all the stars. I've beat all the levels. I've unlocked all the all the secrets. I've met Yoshi up on the roof of the Princess Peach's castle. I've done all that. I've beaten Bowser millions of times. I play this constantly. It's a great game. It's really fun if you have a Game Shark and you put a bunch of codes in, a bunch of cheats, and cause glitches. And like, there's one you can make Mario really giant. You can make all the worlds like white. You can make him walk on lava. You can make that blue sea monster from Hazy Maze Cave, the level Hazy Maze Cave. You can make him go in the lava level and spin around. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do in Game Shark with all kinds of codes. Just be careful because I think it can corrupt your system. But I feel bad for bash. I feel like I wasn't really bashing this game. It is a great game, still a great game. I just think that there's another platformer game that came out later that does everything this game did way, way better. And that's probably the reason why. But we'll get to that in a moment. But this was one of the first games that came out. That other game, which I'll mention in a minute, came out later, so they had more time. I might be being kind of unfair. Still a great game. It's still my number 5 N64 game. Still in my list. Or only number, or this is number 4 now. Sorry, yeah, number 4, whatever. Hey, that's even higher. So there you go. Super Mario 64. It's great. Don't think I'm bashing it because I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm just saying some of the later levels I think kind of suck. That's all. But at the time the graphics blew me away. It was just awesome. I just think it hasn't aged quite as well as some of the others, but that's fine. Anyway, too much time on that. Sorry. Another game you knew would be on the list is GoldenEye. And yes, I mentioned this earlier. This is better than World's Not Enough overall. World's Not Enough came later, so that, again, they had more time to perfect the multiplayer and everything. But I think this one, the level design was a little better. I think GoldenEye was a much better movie than World's Not Enough. I think that kind of, it kind of shows even when you talk about the games. GoldenEye is easily the best of the Brosnan films, at least in my opinion. And it's easily the best James Bond game ever made, too. Even anything after that. I mean, come on, it's GoldenEye. When you talk about N64, one of the first games people mention is GoldenEye, for good reason. The multiplayer is great. The single player is great. I remember when I first played this, the graphics just blew me away. I was like, whoa. Like, when you had a gun, you'd shoot the walls, you'd see the bullet holes. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Me and my friends would play it when it first came out. It just blew us all away. And I think that World's Not Enough was one of the later games. I think it was probably made when N64 was in the out, so not as many people remember that game, which, again, I think it improves on GoldenEye slightly, but I still prefer GoldenEye overall. Great game. You can play so many different characters. Even Boris, that guy Boris, who says, "I'm invincible," and gets frozen towards the end. You can play as him, which is crazy. I'm going to try to... this video's going on longer than I wanted it to, so I'm going to move on. I could praise GoldenEye for hours. But anyway, I'm going to go and reveal my number 2 favorite N64 game, Conker's Bad Fur Day. This game is awesome. Rareware was the shit back in the day. Most of my favorite Super Nintendo games, Killer Instinct, Donkey Kong Country, were made by them. Rareware was just, they could do no wrong, and this game is no exception. This game, and the thing is, look at that rating, mature. It's a talking squirrel in like a goofy a Wonderland type setting, and you wouldn't expect to be a mature setting, but there's cussing, there's vulgarity, there's drinking, there's drug abuse, there's flowers with big old tits. This game was made for adults. I thought that was really cool. That made it. They really differentiated it from other games that were coming out at the time. And it was for adults. It was vulgar, it was obscene, it was graphic, but, kids still played it. I'm sure all kinds of kids tricked their parents into buying this for them. They probably couldn't tell, but it was geared towards adults. But, lots of kids have fond memories of it, myself included. I played this when I was a kid, and, I turned out fine, right? No, great game. It's so much fun. It's pretty challenging. It gets pretty difficult towards the end. Some of the boss battles are just ridiculous. There's one where playing as a giant turd. It's like a sea of shit. You know, and he sings opera, and the song he sings is just hilarious. And there's just so many other highlights. I could go on and on about it. There's a talking scarecrow. There's just so many things. There's even a part where when you type in a password, it's like in a fireplace. There's like a demon in there. If you type in bad words, he says things like, ooh, you're a naughty one, or I can't remember what he says, or like, watch your language, or something. It's just hilarious. The game is so freaking funny. It's just one of the funniest games ever. The cutscenes are hilarious. The characters, all the lines, even dying and getting game over is funny, because you meet the Grim Reaper, and he's like extremely short. It just, oh gosh, this game's just awesome. And I think this will probably be on everybody's top 10 list. And I hear it's actually kind of rare now. I heard it's worth some money because it's so hard to find. So, you know, I'm glad I hold on to my copy. You know, all right. But anyway, yeah, again, that's another one I could talk about for hours. But we're reaching the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to go and reveal some honorable mentions real quick. Before I reveal my number one favorite N64 game, which is right here. Yeah, I'll reveal that in a second. The first honorable mentions. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. I love Kirby games. You know, Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2 for the Game Boy, Kirby's Adventure for the NES, Kirby Superstar, and Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo. This is a great one as well. It's pretty much Kirby's Dream Land 4. Great game. I highly recommend it. Love Kirby. Rampage 1 and 2. You know, this was from the arcade game. Rampage World Tour, Rampage 2 Universal Tour. You can play as giant monsters going around smashing cities and eating people and stomping on people and just causing destruction. So how can you go wrong with that? It's freaking awesome. Mario Party 1 and 2. I don't have Mario Party 3 anymore. There's a lot of N64 games I don't have anymore, more of which I'll get to in a second. These are great games. These are very revolutionary. They're still making Mario Party games now. I think the ones for GameCube, like 4 and 5 and 6 and whatever, were even better. It was pretty cool. It's like you're on a board game, you roll the dice, and you get items, and, you know, you're against other players trying to collect stars. They're pretty fun. A lot of fun, especially with other people. Yeah, I love Mario games, so, you know, those are no exception. Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Mortal Kombat 4. You know, these are great games as well. I love Mortal Kombat. Huge Mortal Kombat fan. The PlayStation version of this is a lot better. Has better graphics, better endings. I think this game had the best endings on all Mortal Kombat series. They put a lot into those cutscenes, but the graphics are so much better. It looks so much better on PlayStation. It's still a great game, you know. It's just kind of the inferior port. No, the arcade game is better. And Trilogy, of course, is kind of a combination of the first three games. Takes all the best parts, best character stages. Killer Instinct, another great fighting game. The first Killer Instinct was on my top 10 Super Nintendo games video. This Killer Instinct Gold. It's the same thing as Killer Instinct 2 from the arcade. I actually used to have a Killer Instinct 2 arcade cabinet in my own apartment, which I wasn't able to take it with me. It stopped working. I got it from the arcade that shut down here in my town. I don't like this one as good as the first one. It's still pretty damn good. I think they could have been more creative with the new characters, you know. But, you know, Saber Wolf and Glacius, they return. Rip Tor and Cinder aren't in it, I don't think. But, you know, Full Gore and all them are there. Great game, great fighting game. I love fighting games, and Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat are the top of my list. Bomberman 64. This is a really good game. I think Bomberman Hero did it way better, though. This is probably the second best Bomberman game. They actually made a sequel, Bomberman 64, The Second Coming, like when N64 was out, so hardly anybody knows about that one. I don't even own it. Another great fighting game series I think is underrated is Clay Fighter. I have Clay Fighter and C2 Judgment Clay and Clay Fighter Tournament Edition on the SNES. I also have the Sega Genesis port of the first Clay Fighter game. So I have every Clay Fighter game. Clay Fighter 63 and a third, which is, you know, the 64 version. Very funny, very good, great humor, great characters. Then Sculpture's Cut, which is like a special edition of that game with new characters and new levels. This game is very rare. It was actually a Blockbuster exclusive. You can actually see on the back. This is Blockbuster Video. You know, specifically for Blockbuster, it's only for rental, so it's actually pretty rare now. It wasn't uncommon for people to own this game, but it's actually worth quite a bit of money now. It's like in the hundreds, so I'm going to hold on to that one. Gex 64, I love the Gex games. I think Gex Enter the Gecko for PS1, which is the same game as this, but slightly superior, had different levels. Also, really like the first Gex game for PlayStation. This is a good game. It was one of the first N64 games I played. It's pretty fun. Yoshi's Story is pretty good. It's not nearly as good as Yoshi's Island for Super Nintendo, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I actually noticed when I watched that video earlier, I put that in the honorable mentions only because I didn't want a bunch of Mario games. It probably would have been my number 3 after Super Mario World and then Donkey Kong Country 2. But yeah, Yoshi's Story isn't quite as good, but still pretty fun. I think it's more geared towards younger kids though. It's not very hard at all. It's one of the easiest games I've ever played. Um, but it's pretty cool. And I love finding the hidden white and black Yoshis who can pretty much do anything. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, another great game. I used to have Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, but I let somebody borrow it and they never gave it back. But that's okay. I like this game better. This is my favorite Turok game. I think it was better than the second one, honestly. You go around killing dinosaurs and giant insects and stuff. Great game. All right, so we're almost the 30-minute mark, and I don't want to make the video that long, so I've got to go reveal my number 1 choice. My number 1 favorite N64 game of all time, Banjo-Kazooie. This game rules. Another rare gem. This is a must-have, and this is the one I was talking about that did pretty much everything Super Mario 64 did, even better. I mean, Banjo the bear, Kazooie the bird, teaming up to go save Banjo's sister from the evil Gruntilda, a green-skinned witch who is trying to make herself younger and prettier, and so many great levels. I mean, oh my gosh, you have a beach level, an Egypt level, a haunted level with ghosts and monsters, a haunted house, essentially, in a graveyard, which is my favorite, Mad Monster Mansion. Love that level. So many great levels. Such a great level design. A snow level, of course. Every game has a snow level. I hate Rusty Bucket Bay. That level's a pain in the ass. I hate it so bad. Click Clock Wood's pretty fun though. It's really hard. It's really long, but it's better than Rusty Bucket Bay. And then the Clanker's Cavern. That's also one of my least favorite levels, but it's got some great levels as well though. There's a couple ones that are really hard and really annoying, but this game rules. So you're walking around, helping different characters. Collecting items. There's so much stuff you can do. It's so much fun. I love it. And then they made a sequel, Banjo-Tooie. This didn't quite make the list, but I will mention it here. They released a lot of different modes. You could actually play as Mumbo, the shaman, who would change Banjo into various different objects in the first game. You can actually separate. You can play as Banjo or Kazooie in some parts. It's pretty cool. The thing I don't like about this game is you can't just enter a level and complete it in one go. Like, you have to keep coming back. You go to a level, you collect a few jigsaw pieces. That's what you do in the game. That's the object, and musical notes. And then you leave the level, learn some more moves, get some more items, and have to come back to the level. You can't just play it, all in one. In this game, you can just enter a level, get all the jigsaws, and leave. And then enter the next level, and so on and so on. It's a much more linear. You do that. In this game, it's not so. That kind of annoys me. This one's a lot harder. It's a lot more challenging, a lot more difficult. But there's a lot more stuff you can do. There's more power-ups. You shoot eggs in the first game. This one's got different kind of eggs, like ice eggs and fire eggs and grenade eggs. Even ones that hatch into little birds that you control and detonate. They explode like bombs. A lot more you can do, a lot more characters. This is a lot darker, too. It's actually kind of grim. This one, Gruntilda, the evil witch, the villain from the first game, she's all skeletal. She's rotted away. She's withered away with nothing but bones, which is cool. Then Bottles, the mole, who helped Banjo-Kazooie in the first game, he dies, and he's a ghost in this one. Definitely a lot darker in the first game. But yeah, they're both great. Great platformers, some of the best ever. I definitely got to give the edge to the first game. I think it's a lot better. Some people think that this one improved on it. As I said, there is a lot more you can do. There's a lot more to it. There's even a multiplayer mode, but I think the first game is the best, and it's definitely my number 1 N64 game for great reason. Mario 64 is great, too. I love it. Great memories, but I think this one improves on it tenfold. All right, guys, so those are my favorite N64 games. Then I'm going to go play me some N64 right now. I might even play some Super Smash Brothers, the one-player mode, because I don't have anybody to play with right now. I'm all alone. No, but yeah, N64 rules. Long live retro games. I'm an old school gamer for life. I'll never sell these games. I'll never get rid of them. If they ever break, I'll just rebuy them. I'll probably never. I'll play the newer games every once in a while, but these are where it's really at. And I consider myself a gamer, but all I play is these wonderful games, these wonderful older games. And I play them just as much now as I did when they were in their heyday, back when they were current. Alright guys, so yeah, N64 rules. I'm going to go play some right now, and if you have N64, and if some of these games I've mentioned you haven't heard of, check them out. And feel free to list some of your favorite N64 games in the comments below. And also check out my top 10 Super Nintendo games and my top 10 Sega Genesis games videos as well, because I love talking about old school video games. And this might be my last one I do, unless I do a video about my top 10 NES games. That's the original,
old school Nintendo. Top 10 Nintendo games. That might be next. All right, guys, I'm Hellhound. Later.